So today we're in Wheeler District, which is a neighborhood just about a half mile from downtown Oklahoma City. And if you've been following us, you know we've been building here for the past couple years. And what is Wheeler District? Some people refer to it as a new urbanist community, or a T&D, which stands for traditional neighborhood development. And those are all true things, but what does that mean? And what it means to me is it's good design. It's a well-designed neighborhood. And what is a well-designed neighborhood? I think it means it's a neighborhood that's designed around people first. And you might think, aren't all neighborhoods designed around people? And the answer is sadly, no, they're not. We used to build for people for thousands of years. That's exactly what we did. We valued beauty and pursued it. We pioneered and innovated. We pushed boundaries. We were masters of architecture and building and technology that we don't even understand today with all the modern engineering and its formulas. We were building things that could last for thousands of years. And not only that, we spend billions of dollars every year with our hard-earned money and our limited time off just to go experience these places for 1 week, because that's how compelling beauty is. Then we invented architects and Excel spreadsheets, and everything went to hell. And I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek here because I'm not talking specifically about architects, but I'm talking about the industry that has become architecture. And you could swap it out with anything else: general contractors, engineers, developers, big finance. My point is, the industry is broken. And there are good people in the industry, and some of those people manage to do good work, but it's only in spite of the industry. It's in spite of all the forces working against them. It's important to note that we still build good things sometimes, but we don't build great things anymore. And the good things, those are the exception, not the rule. Everything else is premium mediocrity at best. Now, I'll get into the why in a different video at a different time. For today, just suffice it to say, we no longer build for people. We build for regulators and bureaucrats. We build to increase housing starts or contributions to GDP. We build for self-serving industry that's always coming up with fancy new products. We build for HGTV and Netflix series so a few people somewhere can make millions of dollars. We build for everything except people. We build for everyone except the people actually using it. It's not that all these things are bad. We need good fire codes and good building codes and good zoning laws. We need investors and banks and a pioneering industry. But the industry has become so siloed, so specialized, so rigid, which is often what happens with increased complexity and scale of our modern world. But the problem is when you stay there in your specialization, over time, people lose sight of what you're actually doing. There is no collective vision. There is no why. This is how we've arrived at where we are with endless faux luxury suburban mansions and drive-throughs and strip centers and giant apartment buildings that are lifeless and ugly. We tried to inject meaning back into architecture by making it about climate change. But climate change isn't a why, it's not a purpose. I can tell you how to build an energy-efficient house. Don't put any windows in it. Don't put HVAC in it. But we do. And so that's how I know we're not really that serious about what we say when we're talking about climate change, because there's a lot of simple ways we could build more energy-efficient houses. Everyone builds smaller, everyone builds more densely, people stop driving cars. But we are considering a lot of variables because, once again, architecture is about human flourishing, about people. And so there's a lot of elements that you have to consider. It's human comfort and health and beauty and wellness and community. It's not just energy efficiency and climate change. And that's why I think we need to zoom out and frame it around people. And then climate change, of course, it falls within that. Environmental stewardship falls within that. And that's why I really think we need a new vision, a new framework for thinking about what we want. And then we need to come up with all the laws and the regulations to facilitate what we want, not the other way around. Right now, all of our laws and stupid bureaucracies and 100-year-old outdated things, those are dictating how we're building, not what we want. If you're wondering, what does all this talk about human flourishing and people have to do with architecture? Well, I think about our architecture and our cities and towns and neighborhoods as the stage from where we play out our lives. And another way to think about it is I think of our architecture as our hardware. If people are the software, architecture is the hardware. And why is that important? Well, you can't run good software on old or outdated hardware. Now, just because you've got great hardware doesn't mean you're going to have good software. You have to have both. But the hardware sets up the parameters and the limitations about what is possible. So if you want to run good software, you first have to have good hardware. And this brings us back to Wheeler. Wheeler is getting back to the basics. They're building for people. That's the vision. That's the goal. And they're doing it in an incredibly complex environment in a very sophisticated way. People have no idea how hard this step is. The fact that this community even exists in 2023 is an actual miracle that they've gotten through all the obstacles in the way. Humans are hardwired to seek shelter or comfortable places. And if you're walking down, people don't walk down the middle of the street, they walk near the edge. If they're at a restaurant, they walk near the edge of the restaurant, or they sit near the edge because people feel so exposed in the middle. But people still have those proclivities today of wanting to feel safe, of wanting to feel comfortable. And so what you're doing in a traditional neighborhood like Wheeler is you're always framing new spaces and views and corridors that are always drawing you along to the next place to make it very pleasant and beautiful to walk. When you're focused on framing spaces and making things walkable and beautiful, one of the things that happens is things get a little bit more dense, which also makes sense because we're a mile from downtown Oklahoma City. So how do you balance these things, the framing of spaces and the beauty, with also privacy, which is really important? Well, there's a lot of little tips and tricks that you can see just walking around here in Wheeler. For example, front porches. Those play a huge role because you've got these public sidewalks walking right by the front of your house. Well, you don't want to just be able to walk by your front door. So these porches extend out and really separate the public realm from the private realm. And it's really this little transition stage. You have walk through a little flower bed. You've got to walk up the steps. There's a little railing there. It suggests that you're walking onto private property, which is a very different feeling. Something really unique is you won't see any garages up the front of the house. And that's not just because there's parallel parking. It's actually, the garages are off the back, off the alley. There's almost this A street, B street. The B street is where the cars and the garages and the utilities go. And then these main streets are for people. And this is the beautiful area and the places you want to walk, which is really different than most modern suburban neighborhoods that are being built with these 2-3 car garages on the front, which take up the whole facade of the house. And frankly, it's ugly. When you don't have garages out the front, you also don't have driveways on the front. When you don't have driveways out the front, you don't have curb cuts, and you don't have people backing out and accidentally hitting a child or something like that. Once again, just a small little design detail that makes everything safer, everything more beautiful, everything more walkable. Another thing you'll see is lots of public spaces and parks and pools and playgrounds, and it's just, once again, a place for all sorts of people throughout the community to come and interact. Something else that really sticks out in these neighborhoods is how narrow the streets are, and that you've actually got parallel parking on both sides. And some people think like, oh, well, that makes things less safe. Not at all. Not only statistically do people drive as fast as they feel comfortable. When you have narrower streets and parallel parking on each side, people drive really slowly. Driving through this neighborhood at 20 miles an hour feels like you're flying. It feels comfortable to drive at 10 miles an hour here. So the combination of all of these things, like I was talking about, the porches and the parks and the narrow streets and the eyes on the street, that means it's safer and kids can go out and play. And that is what a neighborhood really could be. In Carlton Linden, we call them free-range kids because they're just going out and living their lives and adventuring, but in an overall safe environment. And this is what happens when you put all of these different ingredients together. You've got everything we've talked about, and you've got an office building over here, and you've got a brewery right here, and a playground and a restaurant, all these shops. And this is just a normal Friday night, and there's so many people out and about. And we're just a 5-minute walk from where we were before. But over there, it's completely quiet. And here, it's vibrant and lively, and you can live so much more of your life in a small radius. My wife and I really like coming here, whether it's on a Friday or Saturday, because we've got a little 3.5-year-old, and it's a way for us to hang out as adults and have conversations with each other, with friends. And Amelia, she can run around the playground or hang out with other kids. We run into people we know here. And that's a wrap for me. I'm gonna go grab some tacos. See you on the next episode.